ago, a 12-year-old me lay curled up in a ball on my bed, clutching my stomach, crying. I had been to numerous doctors and specialists, none of whom could tell me why I was feeling this way. One doctor prescribed me painkillers. Another told me it was all in my head. Another gave me medication for IBS that made my hair fall out. I felt helpless and desperate for an answer. Today, I stand here a different person, healthy, happy, and vibrant. And I hope to share my experience and offer a perspective that has been with us for millennia, but is seldom seen today. So 12 years ago, I got my answer. I was diagnosed with celiac Sprue disease, and since it went undiagnosed for quite a few years, it wreaked havoc on my body, and I then developed Hashimoto's, a hypothyroid condition. And that's when my healing journey began. I grew up in Los Angeles, where ego and outer beauty rule the city. So as you can imagine, food was viewed more as a nuisance than as a means to heal and fuel the body. Having celiac was way more serious than I ever really knew. I was gluten-free before gluten-free became popular. And with celiac, cross-contamination is pretty much inevitable, especially back then, whenever eating out of the home. So after being diagnosed, eating gluten-free, I felt enormously better, but I was still suffering from daily low-grade abdominal discomfort. And about once a month, I experienced what I used to call an episode, which basically entailed me eating gluten, unbeknownst to me, and vomiting and body convulsions would ensue. And while living in university, I lived in a dorm and a sorority. And so basically, I was just living with abdominal distension and discomfort for years. It just became my reality. And that's the funny thing about health, is you get so used to a specific ailment that you forget it's really an issue. So fast forward to my first year out of university. I'm living in San Francisco working at a fast-paced PR firm. I'm a driven UC Berkeley alum, climbing the corporate ladder as quickly and efficiently as I could. I laugh thinking about that because I'm standing here in Victoria, BC. My life is everything I never imagined it would be, and 1,000 times better for it. So while living in San Francisco, my diet consisted of, I'm embarrassed to even admit, but coffee mate, cucumbers, and an inordinate amount of microwaved chicken sausages. My roommate coined it the phallic food diet. So I was just completely disconnected from my body. I had no idea about the mind-body connection. And it never occurred to me to tap into my intuition for something as basic as the food I was eating. It wasn't until one of my clients launched their line of organic homeopathic products that I find alternative medicine. I ended up booking an appointment with a naturopath overseeing their line, and my world opened up. She did muscle testing and found out that I was pretty much sensitive to everything except for meat and veggies. So I plunged into what was essentially the paleo diet. And soon after, I experienced quite an intense healing crisis, but I knew it was for the best. My body just needed to expunge 22 years of processed foods. And then soon after that, I had my first Reiki session. And in my Reiki session, I had this vision of me as a Reiki Master and yogi. And I laughed thinking, oh yeah, when I'm in my 30s, I have kids, and I've already made it in my career, yes, then I'll pursue a more Zen lifestyle. Suddenly, the world unfolded itself beautifully. And I had a complete shift in perspective. I began to reevaluate my life in a different way. And I realized I cannot sit behind a desk in an office where the windows don't open, where my indoor plants were withering away before my eyes. I decided with zero plan, but with incredible conviction, that I was going to quit my job and go and do Reiki and yoga. So I packed my apartment up in San Francisco and I moved to Victoria, a place I visited often because my boyfriend was here training with the national rowing team, but I knew nothing of its magic. So since I was American, the easiest way for me to stay in Canada was to go to school. So I signed up for Pacific Rim College's Community Herbalist program. And there I studied Western herbal medicine and holistic nutrition. And I found a teacher there, Nadine Ijaz, a force of nature, an activist, and my greatest mentor. This beautiful woman spoke with such passion, such conviction, you couldn't help but be hers and traditional diet's biggest supporter. The path to healing using natural methods wasn't always smooth. A 13-year practicing herbalist gave me Western bitters, cooling Western bitters, and I experienced the worst health crisis I had ever encountered. What had essentially happened was he cleansed my already deficient body, and I had no resources left to kick in and protect me. I was writhing in pain every single day because my stomach and intestines felt like they were being ripped apart every time I ate. I became so weak and deficient, I couldn't bend over, my chest cavity would hurt. So I booked an appointment with Nadine, and she put me on chicken and white rice cooked in bone broth. That was it, for 2 weeks, that was all I ate. But it was the first time in 6 weeks I didn't feel sick. After that, I went on a traditional diet consisting of bone broths, marinated meats, and fermented veggies. And I was at the lowest health point in my life, and it was a nourishing traditional diet that got me out of it. My improvement was drastic and quick, and it really made me realize the incredible power food has on the body. I had never thought of it before, but food can literally kill you, and it can literally save you. Food is our medicine. Food is not just fuel. It's our nutrients, it's our life force. We can't live without it, yet we often overlook it. There are hundreds of diets out there, and each person and body is different. So I suggest you explore and you intuit what works for you, and that might change throughout your life. I stand here today, 15 years later, a different person. I'm healthy. I'm more than healthy, I'm vibrant. I have energy, a strong immune system, and I feel good. I don't own a microwave, so no more microwave chicken sausages. I have jars covering my counter of fermented foods and other deliciously wild things like kombucha vinegar and deacidified coffee, fermenting veggies, etc. It's only been 3.5 years. There's still work to do, but where I was in LA, University, San Francisco, my first few months here, I'm a completely different person, and I owe it all to a traditional diet. So what's a traditional diet? A traditional diet is a diet our ancestors ate. It's a diet our grandmother's grandmother ate, consisting of bone broths, marinated meat, soaked sprouted grains, and fermented veggies. I have seen what it has done for me, what it has done for my clients, and the research done by Weston A. Price. So Weston Price was a dentist who was confounded by the increasing rates of tooth decay in the 1930s. So he did anthropological research to figure out why this was happening, and he studied people eating their traditional diets and their traditional culture and people eating a westernized diet. And what he found was the stark contrast between the two. So people still eating their traditional diet had beautiful bone structure with a wide set jaw and beautiful high cheekbones and straight teeth with little to no tooth decay. And people eating after one generation of eating a westernized diet, their jaws were no longer well defined, their teeth were overlapping because they no longer fit in the mouth, and there was lots of tooth decay. The essence of it is our ancestors were closer to the spirit world than we can be now. They were more tuned in and communicated with the plants. They knew how to soak, sprout, and ferment before science backed this up. They knew that a simple process of nixtamalization, for example, soaking your corn in an alkaline solution such as lime water, allows the niacin and the B3 to become more bioavailable, just meaning our body can absorb it more easily. These methods nourished generation upon generation. Today, everybody is a health expert. So I'm not standing here today as a health expert. I'm standing here as a person who has lived these experiences and found food to be my medicine. History has shown us that we cannot outsmart the wisdom of our ancestors. So I am encouraging you to tune in and listen and see if the voices of our ancestors speak to you. Thank you. From my heart, may we all listen, may we all hear, and we all be happy, healthy, and vibrant.